This video starts out with a quick overview of OBD1 and 2 for those that are unfamiliar with them. If you're just here for my OBD3 predictions, jump to the time right here in the video and it'll take you right to it. Onboard diagnostics. It's a great idea. The computer in the car knows what to expect from certain sensors, and if the sensor's way off or something's not quite right, it can store that data and pass that information onto a scan tool that knows how to communicate with the car so that a mechanic or technician can see what's wrong with the car or what has been wrong with the car, even if it's not wrong right now. However, every manufacturer out there had a different way of storing that data and different plugs to connect to it, and they even had different terminology for the same part. That was until 1996 when it was all standardized into OBD2. With OBD2, not only was the plug standardized, but hundreds of codes for the same problem were all the same code now. P0300 means random multiple misfire on a Ford, a Chevy, Toyota, Audi, any car in North America, as long as it was a new car sold in the US after 1996, of course. OBD2 also made it super easy for federal emissions to be tested across all cars. So what are my predictions for OBD3? Is it going to happen at all? If so, when? I'm 98% sure that OBD3 will happen, but as for a date, I don't think there is going to be a date. I think it'll gradually trickle into the market via electric cars. And what do I think the differences are going to be? Because if there's no differences, there's no point in making any fuss about this at all. Well, one of the main things I think is going to change is that there won't be a plug anymore. I think it's going to go wireless. Back in '96, making these things wireless would have been a lot to ask of auto manufacturers, but now in the age where you can get things that have wireless capability for under $5, it's a no-brainer. You won't have to bother looking for a plug anymore, you just need to have a tool that can connect with the car and be close enough to the car to connect with it. While the ability to connect directly to the car's main computer via wireless network is a hacking vulnerability, I don't see that stopping anything. And wait, I know I just mentioned computer security and this is YouTube, so you're like, this guy's about to sell me a VPN. I'm not, just sit down, it's fine. Onboard diagnostic systems have to monitor the car for problems, so on an electric car, what are they going to monitor? Well, I suspect that they're going to go with batteries. And while whatever off gases from a battery may not hurt the environment per se, as a battery wears out, it takes a little more energy to charge up that battery when you plug it in when you get home, so eventually it's going to get to the point where you're sucking out more energy from the grid than you would with a fresh battery, and they're going to monitor that and give you a notification, hey, your battery's getting old, it's using more power, you gotta have to swap that out. The worst case scenario, besides getting your car completely shut down remotely, is that every month that you go with this old battery, you'll get fined a certain amount. Let's move on over to a more positive change though. Remote software updates. Most modern cars are already getting software updates, but you have to take them to the dealer to get those updates. Some cars are already doing those satellite updates. I think OBD3 will bring more convenience for software updates. Pretty much every car will get software updates via satellite. There is an economic downside to that becoming mandatory though. Auto manufacturers that want to put this technology into their cheapest model will want that technology to be mandatory across the board, because then their cheapest model with the technology won't have to compete with someone else's cheapest model that's cheaper because they don't use that technology. And of course that won't be mentioned because it'll be put there for emissions purposes. That way every year when the emissions get a little more strict, they can send a satellite signal to detune that car just a little bit, make the emissions a little bit better, and of course there's always a trade-off. The power goes down a little bit, fuel economy might even go down a little bit, who knows. And it would be really easy to get away with that too, because cars naturally lose power and fuel economy over time, so you wouldn't really even notice it. Alright, time to put on your tinfoil hat. I've saved the best for last. I predict that the initial drafting of OBD3 will include sending information to your insurance company and police if you're going too fast down a road or cornering with excessive G-forces for too long. And I say initial draft because I feel like they'll take that part about sending it to the police out of that, but they'll still send it to insurance companies and they'll be able to say, hey, we made the law better, but the insurance companies will still send it to the police in exchange for tax breaks. But all of this is assuming that OBD3 even happens in the first place, and we're allowed to drive motor vehicles in the next 10 years, so speculation is fun. Keep it going in the comments below. Let me know what you think will happen with OBD3, and check out the other comments below. It should be an interesting conversation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Car Simplified video. Without a tinfoil hat.